Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Sister Dedicacion Rosario, school directress, and other Paul St. Paul College Pasig sisters. Good afternoon. Mrs. Maricel Lacap, our high school assistant principal for homeroom. Miss Juliana May Navarro, student coordinating team president. Miss Mika Francesca Bakiran, project head and SCT secretary. Middle administrators and non-teaching staff. Guests from the Father Louis Chauvet Foundation School. Our dear teachers, parents, students, alumni, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. It is nice to be back. I was telling the sisters that this is not the first time I came over. A few years ago, when my husband was still alive, you invited him also to speak before your students, and I was his driver then. When I was a member of Congress, I was also invited in an education summit. But I think the audience were not students. So it is an honor to be here. I did not realize that this would be a big crowd. But thank you. It is indeed my honor and my privilege to have been invited and to be with you this afternoon. Congratulations to all the members of the student coordinating team for bringing together all your schoolmates to an event such as this. Alam ko na hindi madali na mag-organize ng activity na gaya nito. Kaya siguro kailangan natin palakpakan yung mga organizers ng SCT. I have a daughter, my youngest daughter, maybe as old as some of you are. She's in senior high. She will be entering grade 12 in August. Whenever I talk to her, I realize that today's world is vastly different compared to, let's say, 2 decades ago. Perhaps at a time when your parents were probably just starting to get to know each other. 20 years ago, it was unthinkable for each one of us to carry a phone everywhere we go. Siguro naalala ito ng mga kaedad ko. Because during that time, phones looked like this. While the phones that you know now look like this. Ayun, masyadong malayo, no? During that time, when we send mails, we hold them in our hands and we go to the post office. Nagpapasalamat tayo kung a day after makarating na. Ang alam ko, parang mas mahal yung bayad kung one-day delivery, di ba? Pero now, your mail looks like this. Masyadong iba na talaga. Back then, when you want to connect to the internet, you had to use a modem connected to a phone line and wait for your computer that looks like this to connect. Today, you just have to click on a button to connect to LTE and Wi-Fi. The world has changed tremendously in the last 20 years. And by the time you finish college, we'll probably see even more changes happening. Perhaps by then, you will be hailing driverless cars, and cameras will be no thicker than your hair strand. But in a world of new technologies and global power shifts, the old values that make great leaders remain important: empathy, excellence, and integrity. They never go out of style. Let me share with you something very personal about empathy. I was very, very shy when I was young. When there are school plays, my younger sister would always land one of the major roles. Pero ako, either scriptwriter o tagahawak ng kurtina. Kasi parati ako nahihiya. And although I was a class officer, I never imagined myself running for the student council because I never saw myself doing campaign speeches before huge crowds. That was how shy I was. But when I became a lawyer, I discovered what it was like to serve the poor. And perhaps because of that, I forgot my shyness. I do not know if any one of you here dreams of becoming a lawyer. Meron ba? Naku, marami. Maraming nangangarap maging abogado. Siguro after you graduate from St. Paul's and after you graduate from college, mag-aabogado na. What do you think lawyers do every day? Dati, yung imagination ko, lawyers are always in their three-piece suits. Ang gaganda ng mga damit, waiting for clients in their air-conditioned offices. But not all lawyers are like that. When I became a lawyer, I know what I wanted to be like. I joined an NGO called Saligan. The clients that we served were farmers and fisher folk, indigenous people, urban poor, abused women and children, and laborers. And instead of us waiting for them in our offices, we were the ones who went to them. We traveled to far-flung barangays, trekked mountains, and went to seaside towns. We slept on roofless huts. We slept on boats when there was no other place for us to stay. It was difficult and challenging. And that was the work I did for more than 10 years. But that was where I found myself. That was when I realized that it was not enough that I knew the law. What was crucial was that I learned to listen with empathy, how to put myself in other people's shoes and look at the world through their eyes, how to unlearn what I knew about the world and reshape it based on what the person in front of me has experienced. As young people, I know that you sometimes or often find it frustrating when you feel like no one can hear you or no one can understand you. When you are talking, when you are talking but no one is listening. I believe that leaders who are infused with empathy, who put others' hugot first before your own hugots, can change our country and our world. We will be more people-oriented rather than power-oriented. We will seek to serve rather than be served. Nothing else would make me more happy than to see that those of you who grow up to become leaders of our society have become leaders full of empathy for the people who need them the most. Excellence is very much connected with empathy. When you understand that your actions may mean that someone lives or dies, eats or goes hungry, loses their livelihood or keeps their job, then you want to give your best in everything that you do. That is excellence. At the office of the Vice President, we go to the farthest and the poorest municipalities to serve the poor and the marginalized. For instance, we went to Agutaya, a small island municipality in northern Palawan. I do not know if any of you has ever been to Coron. May nakapunta na ba sa Coron? May nakapunta na, meron ng iba. From Coron, you can reach Agutaya after a 10-hour boat ride. Napakalayo. Can you imagine how difficult it must be if the nearest hospital is a 10-hour boat ride away from where you live? Pumunta po kami doon. And when we went, most of the people who met us were crying. Akala namin kung anong nangyari. Yun pala, they felt so touched that someone from here would visit them. Pero ito yung nakakalungkot. We saw that their grade 6 students were as small as their grade 1 students. We learned that they suffer from a condition called stunting, where their minds and not just their bodies were affected by lack of food. Can you imagine not being able to eat enough food to allow you to learn and to grow? I discovered that as we walked where they walked, as we listened to their stories, we were even more committed to come back with help. We have returned several times since then with boats, solar equipment, and toys for the children's play school through the help of our donors and partners. Empathy truly brings excellence. When I was visiting another remote barangay in my home province of Camarines Sur, I visited a school one Saturday, and when I entered one of the classrooms, I saw that there were 5 Manila papers posted on the walls of that classroom, where a schedule of some sort was written. The words Monday to Friday were on those 5 papers, and some names of children were written under them. For Monday, 9 names, Tuesday, 9 names, Wednesday, 9 names, until Friday, 9 names. When I asked the teacher what it was for, she explained to me that there were 38 students in that class, but only 9 chairs. So that everyone gets a chance to sit on those chairs, they had to follow a schedule. Yun pala, yung nakita kong nasa Manila paper, ay schedule ng kung sino ang pwedeng umupo ng Lunes, sino ang pwedeng umupo ng Martes hanggang Biyernes para during the week, all the 38 students would have a chance to sit on that chair. Here, we worry about traffic, slow internet, and other inconveniences. In other places, they worry about who gets to eat and who gets to wait for the next meal, or even who gets to sit on a chair this week. But if we all strive to be excellent in our studies, our leadership roles, and in the way we use our knowledge, hopefully the time will come when no one will have to go hungry, and no child will ever have to sit on the floor while studying in school. My last point is about integrity. Remember what Dumbledore told Harry Potter, and I quote, "It is our choices, Harry, that show that who we truly are, far more than our abilities," close quote. Math, science, history, grammar, they are difficult, I know. Studying them can feel like an endless task. But in the end, it is what you do with that knowledge that defines your abilities as a leader and your character as a person. My husband, Jesse, who died in a plane crash 5 years ago, always said, "Hindi sapat na tayo ay matino lamang. Hindi rin sapat na tayo ay mahusay lamang. Hindi lahat ng matino ay mahusay, at lalo namang hindi lahat ng mahusay ay matino. Ang dapat ay matino at mahusay upang tayo ay pagkatiwalaan ng pera ng bayan." Your integrity counts a lot. What we do when no one is watching, the paths that we choose when there is no applause waiting, these are the things that make great leaders. I am glad that you are learning all of these principles in your classrooms and in the work that you do while you are very young. That is because I believe that leadership claims us. We never plan for it. And when it does claim us, we can only hope that there is empathy, excellence, and integrity in ample supply within our hearts and within our minds. Throughout my life, I was content to be a mother to my 3 daughters, to be the wife of a politician, and to be a lawyer for the poor. I never planned to run for public office. But when I did, I realized that everything that happened in my life prepared me for this crucial moment. When I say everything, it means all the good experiences and all the difficult times. Each difficult trek to a mountain, or each criticism that I have ever received. Each time we lost a case in court because those who had money and connections won. But it also means each life we touched and each moment that told us that service and excellence, listening with empathy, and protecting our empathy were difficult, but they were always worth it. No one is born a leader. It is always nurture over nature, not the other way around. This means we need not listen to the little voices of defeat in our minds that say, you are too shy, or too fat, or too short, too unpopular to be a leader. Because if we know why we must lead, especially for those who need our help, then nothing should stop us. We can learn, we can train, we can stand up and speak our minds. There is no limit to excellence and empathy if we are willing to do our part. So this early, my prayer is for all of you to tread the paths that would turn you into great leaders of our country in the future. Thank you very much again for having me this afternoon. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
May we request the Vice President to remain at the podium for the open forum.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Paula Kalengasan and
Paula.
I'm from the grade 8. My question is, how difficult is it to live up to being a role model nowadays, and how do you handle it?
First of all, I think every one of us should always aspire to be a role model. Meaning to say, in everything that we do, kahit walang nanonood, we must always act as if the whole world is watching. Yun yung magagabay sa atin. When we know that people are watching, there is a natural tendency for us to put our best foot forward. Gusto ko lang sabihin, kahit walang nanonood, dapat yung mindset natin parating ganon. But you know, it is a difficult time. I'm saying this on a personal basis. It is a difficult time to be vice president. Because we have seen in the recent past, we have seen an erosion of values. And there is always a struggle between what is right and what is popular. Dapat sana pareho yun, di ba? Dapat sana what makes it popular is because it is right. Pero nowadays, parang magkahiwalay na path yun. But that's the difficulty. You are always at crossroads. Do you want to be right or do you want to be popular? Yung sa akin, it should not be difficult if you are determined to be right rather than be popular. When I say that, it is difficult and challenging in the sense that if you decide to be right rather than be popular, you also have to be ready for all the criticisms. You have to be ready to be unpopular. You have to be ready to take everything. And for me, it is not at all a burden because you know you're doing the right thing. And it should be the same for you. Being student leaders, you will be confronted with the same crossroads, to be right or to be popular. And it will always be not only to your best interest, but to the best interest of everyone if you choose to be right rather than to be popular.
Thank you.
Good afternoon
Good afternoon.
I'm Julia Bonita from grade 11. I would like to ask, what do you think is the number one challenge of being a student leader, and how can we improve on it?
Ako the same. I think the challenge, maybe we differ in the scale, but the challenge is the same. The challenge is, most of you here are student leaders. And we all know that as leaders, we have to make very difficult decisions. And those very difficult decisions are not always popular. It is always a choice between being liked and being respected. Sometimes, when you choose to be respected than be liked, you will have to undergo struggles first. When you make difficult decisions, you may be unpopular, but later on you will be respected because people will know that you chose the more difficult but right path. I think what makes it more difficult for students is the fact that your constituents are also your friends. Di ba? Your constituents are also your friends. And it's always difficult to impose your authority over friends. Pero again, I think the metrics is the same. Do you prefer to be right or do you prefer to be popular?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Bea Rodriguez from the grade 12. And my question is, as women, how can we overcome the patriarchy in society and empower ourselves to be better leaders and role models?
Okay, first of all, we need to define women empowerment because sometimes there is a misconception that women empowerment equates to our struggle to be more powerful than men. It is not. Women empowerment is merely our struggle to be regarded as equals of men. When we say to be regarded as equals of men, we always must appreciate what men can do and what women can, and what women can do and what men can. Because if we do appreciate that, we respect that, we understand that we have roles to play in society, in our own families, in our schools, in the workplace. When men and women work well together, when they treat each other as with much respect, yun yung pinakamaganda. Pero pag naglalaban-laban yung babae sa kalalaki, in the name of women empowerment, that is not correct at all. Just to give you a very personal experience, my husband was mayor for 6 terms. All in all, almost 20 years. And in all those years, I was content to be in the background, to be a wife, to be a mother, and that gave me utmost fulfillment. Did I feel that my husband was more powerful than I was? Not at all. We were just playing the roles that were given to us. I was there to support him. I was there to respect him, and I felt that with my experiences outside of his politics, I was able to contribute very much to how he viewed things. After my husband died, it was my turn to step up, and I did. But I never regarded it as my husband being more powerful than I am. But I get your point that this is a different world now. There is so much misogyny going around. And the question is, if you're at the receiving end of misogynistic attacks, what do you do? Do you keep quiet? Or do you fight back? And by fighting back, hindi ka naman makikipag-away. But you assert your rights. Ngayon, so many people opt to be quiet. Kasi pag lumalaban, sinaswarm. I think you know what I mean. Most of you are in social media. And when you say some things that are not, when you say some things that others take very personally, people swarm at you. I've been at the receiving end of so much of that. Pero yung tanong, do you keep fighting? O hihinto ka na lang para hindi ka nila awayin? That is always the question. And you know, when all of us would opt to be quiet, patuloy na mangyayari ito. Marami ngayon yung nagtatanong, what has become of us? If before we could not tolerate certain things, ngayon parang there is so much that we tolerate already. Bakit nangyayari yon? I do not know if you read if you read a particular article na nangyayari yon kasi pinapayagan nating mangyari. And you know, that is I think where we should decide if these things happen, what do we do? Would we opt to take the safer route, or do we fight for what we think is right? Kung ako tatanungin, even if it is unpopular, we always fight for what we think is right.
Thank you.